Look what you created. Everything surrounding me, you made it. Everything's so beautiful the way it flows together. I think I hear birds singing your praises. Amen. I swear you make me feel like I'm your favorite. Oh, it's the way the birds.
Hi guys, welcome and welcome back to yet another episode of Small Girl Big God. We have been here from episode 1. We are probably episode 12. I want to believe that. And Manze, it has been by the grace and the mercies of God. Welcome again and again and again. Make sure you invite your friends, your family, and we are about to have a good time in the presence of God as well. Now, before I dive into today's topic of discussion or maybe learning, I'd like to make to invite you to some few events. Now, on the 10th of August, it's going to be on a Sunday in the afternoon from 2 p.m. all the way to 7/8 p.m. ish. We are having an amazing festival that is called the Believers Celebration Festival that is happening in CPF House. Ground floor actually. And we are going to celebrate 1 year of God's faithfulness to Checky God Movement. It's an interdenominational meeting that we host together with my husband, same CPF House, first floor. And at the same time, we are going to celebrate the man of God. He's going to be turning 25 years, full of God's faithfulness. We're going to be here, ground floor, not first floor, ground floor. The poster is going to be out. I hope it's going to be out by the time I'm releasing this episode. All right. And on the 21st, let me check that calendar and see what it's wrong. On the 21st to the 24th of the same month, August, we are having our annual conference that City Light Fraternity holds. That is called the A-Game Conference that we are going to have all from 21st all the way to 24th. All right. And on the 24th, we are going to have a collective Sunday service as well for all the branches. So make sure you invite your friends, your families, and we're about to have a good time in the presence of the Lord. Now, on today's discussion, we're going to have an amazing conversation on the power of a Christ-centered friendship, not relationship, friendship. Now, we are often used to the phrase, they are friends who are actually closer than family, and this other phrase, what is it called? Like, family is not one that you're related with by blood, there are people who we actually refer to as family because of how tight our bond is. And, these things are spoken actually in the Bible. But now, the real question should be, if there's a Christ-centered friendship, there's a worldly friendship. Now, this conversation came into my heart after I listened to the previous episode that you're actually supposed to listen to. Msikose kusikiza. Our guest mostly referred to one of the main struggles they used to have in their relationship with God. Unapata, their influence was mostly because of friends. And that can tell you that friends have an upper hand in your life, in the direction that your life can take. All right. If you look at we normally hear stories that mse okay, this is not a very good example, but here we go. Like mse akitafutwa tuseme na DCI, kama hizi patikana, the immediate either family or friend, depending on the kind of person. But now, since we are talking about friendship, we're going to say friends, ndo utafutwa. So that can tell you that any kind of relationship that you have is, your life is dependent on the relationships that you actually make in this life. Now, what is a Christ-centered relationship? Friendship. Iko tu vile iko. A friendship that is actually based on the morals and the values that Christ has set for us in his word. All right. A Christ-centered friendship, any friendship that is based on the morals and the standards that Christ has and has for us. So we can find this actually, most of the wisdom in friendship is actually written, in the book of Proverbs, and also Jesus has spoken about it, and we are going to head there. Now, a little story about when I was in campus, of course, I had friends at some point, probably when I was in second year, somewhere there. And I remember it was really nice. I mean, considering it is the first, female friendship, not really the first female friendship, but enye mko squadi kubwa, the way mnaweza kuwa friends in campus, so many girls together, and it was so good. It was vibes on vibes. It was an amazing. But now when I look back, I remember I was the only one who really alikuwa najua God ni nani. I was still walking my salvation, not with fear. I was not walking it in fear and trembling, because there are things that I did that I believe did not display me as a, what is it called, like siko straightforward, and I noticed that there are things also my friends at the time, there are things they did not sit with the values that I had as a person. All right. So even for a friendship to work in the first place, lazima values zenu zikuwe zimesikizana. For example, now me, I don't think I can sit in a space where there is somebody we cannot have Bible discussion with, where there is somebody we cannot have positive marriage discussions with, because it is not aligning with my principles and values, and also in the place that God has put me currently. And therefore, like during in my campus days, the friendship was amazing. But when I started getting closer to God, it's like they were being uprooted one after the other. And of course, it was not an easy journey. And actually, I have just remembered that there's a guest that I hosted, Awiti. You can go look at her story. I think it's the 5th or the 4th story. Hapo somewhere. Sana the 4th. The 4th should be the 4th story, where she talks about that she shared friends during her walk with God. And it actually happened to me as well. But at that time, I didn't have the understanding that I'm actually shedding friends. It felt like my world was crumbling over. It was crumbling down. And I was like, what is going on? What is actually going on? Because you love these people. You cannot be friends na msee mwenye upendi. Understand? So and then at that time, well, I didn't really think much about it. I was hurting, but I didn't think much about it. Maybe because it happened when semester ilikuwa inaisha. So I go home. So by the time I'm coming to the next semester, they were already done with school. I think they even graduated probably before me. All right. And now I'm back. I don't know anyone because my friends washa graduate, washa enda. And I believe God put me in a space where I was able to be accountable to my walk with Him. I did not have as many friends that I had at the time. Actually, as a matter of fact, I had no friends, but my roommate was it. Shout out to you, Winnie. She made my last year of campus and my last semester of campus so bearable and so smooth. We used to go to Nairobi Cinema every Wednesday for the Bible study. God really restored me, even though not in full measure, but now I'm enjoying the full measure. But at that time, it worked out. And when I was thinking about this topic once again, I remember that even me have encountered, friendship that was not Christ-centered. It made me compromise some things, even some values. But at the end of the day, it is not worth it. You are out there, you have friends that you know very well in your walk with Christ. They truly don't align with your values. You have no business being in such a friendship. Some time back, I think it was Apostle Emmanuel I ran on YouTube, Apostle Emmanuel, and he said something about when you're in the middle of sin, you don't have to like when you're in an environment where sin is being, practiced, you don't have to be the one that is preaching there it's a room of 100 people, and you're the only one who is a believer of Christ and you're walking with Christ. You don't have to be there to prove that you can actually be able to, I hope I'm phrasing this well. You don't have to be able to stand there just to be able to prove a point that I can be a believer amongst 1,000. Because remember, they have more influence than you when you are alone. When you're alone, they have more influence than you have. There are chances, because remember, your flesh, your man in flesh and blood. So there are things that they will do. You will actually find yourself compromising, whether it is by your thoughts, your actions, your words, you will find yourself compromising. And I'm basing this conversation on, when I was reading the Word of God, it has warnings about ungodly friendships, and I'm going to refer to some of the verses. For example, in Proverbs 13 verse 20, it talks about, he who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will be destroyed. Apostle Selman usually says, if you're in a room with 6 people and they're all fools, you're wrong. They're not 6, they're 7, because you're the 7th person. When you walk with wealthy people and they're 10, you're the 11th person. So that means the company of people has a lot of influence in your day-to-day living. I was about to say praise God because I feel like I'm preaching about a company conversation, And another verse says, do not be deceived. Evil company corrupts good habits. The good thing with God is, ashatusho history yote. So we only have to be the ones who are reading the word. This verse basically, tells us that when you surround yourself with people, the people have influence, and they influence your character. So the kind of people you work with, they actually influence your character. And in the same line, friendships are a covenant. All right. We can see this from the story of David and Jonathan. These people, I was reading this text, and you realize that David was equally anointed by God through Prophet Samuel. And if you think about it, in the leadership of kings, how do I say it? You see, the way after a king dies, it is the son that takes over. Basically, after Saul dies, Jonathan was the one who is most likely the one who was supposed to take over, hereditary. That's the word I was looking for. Hereditary kind of rule. Jonathan was the one who is supposed to take over in our own understanding as men. But Jonathan was so wise, and I believe Jonathan had the fear of God. He had the fear of God, because at the time when David wanted to be killed by his own father, Jonathan himself is the one who hid David, or rather helped him navigate through the whole situation. If Jonathan wanted, angekuwa tu amemseti. You understand what I'm saying? But when you look at this friendship, it is so solid, and it is so much based on covenant, and it is so much based on a lot of values, to a point that when you read their story, when Jonathan and his father died, David ended up maintaining the friendship and the covenant, and it extended even to the son of Jonathan, to the child of Jonathan. What does that tell you? That friendship can take you a long way. Ushaisikia historia, our parents usually say, let me call my friend, their child is working so and so. And the friends of our parents honored this covenant of friendship. That's why we used to get into places we are not even worthy to walk into, because our friends labored in our friendship, but in their friendship. But the problem with us, we really do not want to work it out. We really do not want to, base our friendship on actual communication. We take our friends for granted so hard. We take our friends as though that they're just mere human beings. Fine. Even me, I'm just a mere human being. But how I treat my best friend will matter. I'm expecting that, well, not really expecting. I'm not doing this with expectation, but I mean, when you do something, even when you serve God, David says that he has never seen, the children of one who has served God beg for bread. We are not serving God expecting any expectation, as a matter of fact, but it is because God is faithful. He says you cannot labor in vain. You understand? It's the same thing with friendship. You cannot labor in vain. If any of my friends that, in the future they have kids, and we have maintained friendship all this while, Imanishi, we have not argued. It doesn't mean that we have not had our long-term, kunyamaziana and all that. But at the end of the day, we have to honor the covenant that we share. All right? And we learn this, Jonathan and David were the best examples of what a friendship looks like. Their friendship was based on loyalty. Even though Jonathan should have been loyal to the father, he chose not to. That is wisdom. That is somebody who had the fear of God. He would have chosen to, but he just said, you know what? I'm not going to do this. And David equally showed his loyalty to this friend of his. You may be telling yourself that it has been spoken in the Old Testament. What about the New Testament? In the book of John, let me look about after your verse, where Jesus speaks about friendships. John chapter 15, verse 13. It says, let me use my Bible. John 15, 13. My message version that I like, it says, this is the very, okay, we start from 12. This is my command, love one another the way I loved you. 13. This is the very best way to love. Put your life on the line for your friends. So this should tell you that friendship is also about sacrifice. If your friend is not willing to sacrifice some things on your behalf, to compromise some things on your behalf, is it really a Christ-centered friendship? All right. And Jesus himself says, I'm calling you your friends. Let me read that for you. You are my friends. This is Jesus speaking. You're my friends when you do the things I command you. So again, a friendship, there are things, there are conversations you have. If I tell my friend, when you do this, you step on my toe, and they do that, then that is not your friend. I am no longer calling you servants, because servants don't understand what their master is thinking and planning. No, I have named you friends because I've let you in on everything I've had from the Father. Sometimes I feel like Jesus alikuwa anatupea leakage of what God really wants us to do in this life. And Jesus tells us that we are his friends as long as we do in accordance to his will, as long as we do. Remember, Job was called a friend of God. Job lived a life that he feared God, he loved God, and he did as per God's will. All right? And Jesus tells us that the very best way to love is to put your life on the line for your friends. You don't have to die. Jesus did it for us. That's a good friend. That's a genuine friend. But what is it that you can do for your friend to show her or him? Because I believe also men are listening to me. What can you do to your friend to show her or him that you actually love this person, you actually value this friendship? All right. And even as I wind up this conversation, the Bible tells us that blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seats of scornful. The purpose of this video was to actually really insist on Christ-centered friendship. You're out there, your group of friends maybe that you had or that you actually have currently, they're not doing the will of the Father. All right. Some of us, God anaweza tuambia, don't let them go fast. That's why salvation is personal. First of all. So usiseme Pastor Faith alikwambia wachana marafiki wako, no. But if you know they're influencing you to do the things and you are not strong enough to stand there, you can as well walk out. Blessed is the man who walks in the counsel of the wise and not in the ungodly. Don't be the one who is going to take the L for a friend of for a group of friends that actually don't really mind about you. They really do not care about you. Don't be the one that you're in the group of 3 friends and you know very well they gossip about each other. You don't deserve to be there. You need to choose a group of people that will bring you to Christ. You need to choose to be in a group of people that will honor your values as a person, that will honor the love of God that you have. There are friends that actually, nyini mabeshte, but utaisikia ameingililia religion yako, or rather your walk with Christ. There are people like that. I have no opinion on that because I don't think I have the wisdom for that at this moment. But what I can say is honor your relationship with God. Honor the friendship that you have with God, that you're able to choose the right people, that you will ensure that your friendship is a circle of people who know God, people who feel. You cannot stay in a circle of friends that they are blasphemous. It's not possible, because when the judgment of God comes, he will ask you, you are there, what did you do? What did you do about it? What are you going to do about it? You can as well be judged by yourself instead of being judged by a group of people that you knew you were not able to control what they said about your God, that you were not able to control what they said about your pastor. Be able to, have the strength to stand up for Christ, even in these dark times that we are living in. Well, I was your host and your guest and everything that you needed to hear today. And I pray for somebody that is watching me that you are going to be able to stand in the ground of having self-centered, Christ-centered friendships. That hata huyo beshte yako, go and preach to your friend. If God tells you, even if you know your friend, me, God has ever told me to tell something to my friend. No, beshte yangu hata sijui kanaendaga church. We are still friends, And I pray that God will bring her back to him 100%. That is my prayer. That is my prayer, that even you with that friend, keep praying. As much as you're maintaining your distance for the sake of your relationship with God, keep praying for your friends. Pray for your friends even before knowing before knowing what is it? Was I supposed to say knowing? Even though you have left them, pray for them. Pray for them. Let them, let your prayer bring them to Christ. Bring them. Ask God, what, oh, Sawa, this is my friend, but what business do I have? Do we really need to be? Ask God about your friends, by the way. Ask about them in prayer. And I know God is faithful enough to tell you and to let you know what his plans are for you. Remember, those friends of yours, and watakwa groomsmen and bridesmaid. You can as well choose wisely. Amazing. So that's all I had for you guys today. I'm praying that you are able to discern who is supposed to be your friend, who is actually your enemy, because enemies are there. And I pray that maybe one day we are going to discuss about them, even in the wisdom that the Lord will have given us. I was your host, Pastor Faith, and make sure you watch the previous episodes, and see you on the next one. Have an amazing, amazing time.